My husband threw me down the second-floor stairs after beating me for 3 straight hours. I woke up in the hospital 2 days later with 6 broken ribs and a face so swollen I could barely open my eyes. That's when I discovered he had run off with my neighbor, the same one who smiled at me every morning. Hi there, my loves. My name is Dorothy Wilson, but everyone calls me Grandma Dot. I'm 73 years old, born and raised in Pikeville, Kentucky, coal country, but I've been living in Louisville for 40 years now. I ended up in this big city because of a story I'm going to tell for the first time online today. A story I've kept buried deep in my heart, like a thorn that hurts, but that you can't remove. Before I begin, I want to mention that the Grandparents' Tales channel is having a $200 giveaway to celebrate reaching 10,000 subscribers. I can hardly believe so many people are interested in this old lady's stories. To participate, it's simple. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like this video, and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from, a little about yourself, or share a beautiful story. I'd love to know who you are, my virtual grandchildren. Now, let's get back to my story. I was born in 1951 in a simple house in rural Pikeville. My father, Mr. Anthony, worked in the coal mines. He came home every day with black dust in his hair that looked like snow. I thought it was beautiful, but now I know that dust slowly killed him, his lungs destroyed by that coal dust. My mother, Mrs. Elizabeth, took in laundry and made the best homemade bread in town. We were poor, but it never crossed my mind that we were missing anything in our lives. Our house was small but cozy. 2 bedrooms, one for my father and mother, another for me and my 2 sisters. A kitchen with a wood stove that stayed lit all day. A backyard with apple, peach, and cherry trees, and a vegetable garden my mother tended as if it were a palace garden. The smell of my childhood was bread coming out of the oven and freshly brewed coffee. The sound was the little battery radio playing Elvis Presley and my mother humming along. The colors were her flowered dress twirling as she swept the house, and the blue Kentucky sky that seemed cleaner than anywhere else in the world. My mother always said, "Dorothy, when you find a man, make sure he looks at you the same way your father looks at me." And it was true. My father looked at my mother as if she were the most precious thing in the world. Even after a full day breaking rocks underground, he would come home and hug her from behind while she cooked, kiss her forehead, and ask about her day. "A man who respects you respects everything you are," my father would say when he saw me daydreaming about the love stories in magazines. I never settled for less than that, my daughter. I grew up believing that love was like that. Simple, respectful, full of small gestures. I thought all men treated women the way my father treated my mother. The innocence of a girl raised in a good family. School was far away. I walked almost an hour to get there, but I didn't mind. I loved studying and dreamed of becoming a teacher. I had a way with words, reading everything I could get my hands on. My father, even with little education, encouraged me. Education is the only thing nobody can take from you, my daughter. I completed teacher training school, graduating in 1970 at 19, the pride of the family. I was the first to have a diploma. My father cried at graduation, hiding it, thinking nobody saw, but I saw, and that silent tear meant more than any speech. I started teaching at a small school near home, children from 7 to 10 years old, mixed class. I loved my work, the purity of the little ones, their joy when they learned to read a new word. I felt useful, important, fulfilled. It was around this time that I met Gerald. He showed up at school one day, enrolling his nephew. Tall, dark-haired, well-groomed with a thin mustache framing a wide smile. He wore a light blue button-down shirt, khaki pants, polished shoes. He wasn't rich, but he dressed with care. "Are you the teacher?" he asked, looking at me in a way that made me blush immediately. "Yes, I am. Dorothy Wilson, nice to meet you." "The pleasure is all mine. Gerald Thompson." His hand was large, warm, firm. When he shook mine, I felt a shiver I'd never felt before. His nephew joined my class. And, coincidentally or not, Gerald always came to pick up the boy after school. Always well-dressed, always smiling, always with a compliment ready. "Teacher Dorothy, you look beautiful when you teach. Your eyes shine." Excuse my boldness, But that dress was made for you. I admire educated women. Is there anything more beautiful than intelligence? I, a country girl, raised with solid values but with no experience in dating, fell for it like a little duck. Each compliment was like water to my garden of romantic dreams. Each smile made my heart race like a galloping horse. One day, he invited me for ice cream after school. I was nervous. I'd never gone out alone with a man. But I accepted. I told my mother, who was concerned, "Daughter, be careful. Men who are too handsome usually know they're handsome. But Mom, he's respectful. He hasn't even tried to hold my hand." "Not yet," she said, with the wisdom of someone who's lived. "Not yet. But who listens to mother's advice when your heart is beating fast?" I went on the date, and it was perfect. Gerald was funny, intelligent, full of stories. He worked as a salesman for a furniture store in Pikeville. He dreamed of having his own business someday. "I want to provide comfort for my future wife," he said, looking at me in a way that made it clear who that wife would be. The courtship started slowly, always respectful, always within the limits I set. Gerald came to our house on Sundays, had lunch with my family. He won my father over with talk of baseball and politics. He won my mother over by helping wash the dishes afterward, something no man did in those days. "This young man seems good," my father commented after a few months. "But go slowly, my daughter. Just because he shows his good side doesn't mean there isn't a hidden bad side." Oh, how I wish I had listened to my father. In the first 6 months, Gerald was the Prince Charming from romance novels. He brought me flowers picked along the way, wrote me romantic notes, respected me as if I were made of crystal. Our kisses were affectionate. His hands never crossed the boundaries. "I want to do everything right with you, Dorothy," he would say. "You deserve a man who values you." And I believed him. Of course I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I had grown up seeing my father treat my mother this way, with affection, respect, dedication. I thought that was how every man treated the woman he loved. After a year of dating, the marriage proposal came. It wasn't a surprise to anyone. Gerald had already won over the whole family, was a regular at Sunday lunches, accompanied me to church. Everyone in Pikeville thought we made the perfect couple. The engagement was simple, at my parents' house. A small party with orange cake made by my mother, soda, snacks. My father gave an emotional speech, talking about how he had raised a daughter for the world and was now entrusting his treasure to another man to care for. "Take care of her as I did, my son," he said, firmly holding Gerald's shoulder. "She is everything I hold most precious. You can count on it, Mr. Anthony. I'll make her the happiest woman in the world." The wedding was set for 6 months later. Those months were a rush, preparing the trousseau, getting the house ready, distributing invitations. Gerald had rented a small house near the school where I taught. Small but comfortable, with a little yard where I already planned to make a garden like my mother's. Anxiety grew as the wedding approached. Aunts and cousins came with advice about the wedding night, making me blush like a tomato. Friends joked, saying I would become a real woman. My mother, more sensible, just hugged me and said, "Daughter, remember that your body is your temple. Even married, you have the right to say no when you don't want to. A man who loves you will understand and respect that." Advice I kept, but would soon discover didn't apply to the man I was marrying. The wedding was in January 1972. I was 20, Gerald 27. The ceremony was at the First Baptist Church, where I had been baptized. I wore the wedding dress that my mother and aunts had hand-sewn, saving on every detail so I could have this dream come true. When I entered the church on my father's arm, I saw Gerald waiting for me at the altar. That wide smile, shining eyes, the rented suit that fit his body perfectly. I remember thinking, this is the man of my life. With him, I will be happy forever. The honeymoon was in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, at a simple inn near the mountains. Gerald had saved for months to give me this gift. In those days, spending a week in the mountains was a luxury for people like us. It was also the first time we slept together, that we really touched. Gerald was affectionate, patient with my inexperience. At first, at least. After 2 days, he began to show a more demanding, more authoritarian side in bed. "My woman has to satisfy me the way I like," he said one night, forcing me to do things that made me uncomfortable. I swallowed my tears and obeyed. He was my husband, after all. Wasn't that what wives did? Please their husbands? We returned to Pikeville and began our married life. The first months were adjustment, learning to cook for two, sharing space, balancing work with household chores. Gerald continued working at the furniture store, and I kept teaching. Our salaries, together, were enough to live with modest comfort. Gradually, I began to notice small changes in his behavior. Complaints about the food I made, questions about who I had talked to at work, demands about how I should dress. That skirt's too short for a married woman. Why do you need to wear lipstick to teach children? Who is this John that waits for you after school? John was the 70-year-old janitor. But for Gerald, any man who spoke to me was cause for jealousy. Around this time, I became pregnant for the first time. I was so happy. I had always dreamed of being a mother. When I told Gerald, he smiled, hugged me, promised he would be the best father in the world. For a few weeks, he returned to being the man I had fallen in love with. Affectionate, attentive, romantic. Until I lost the baby in the 3rd month. Heavy bleeding, pain, hospital, immense sadness. When I returned home, Gerald was different. Cold, distant, as if it were my fault. You should have taken better care, he said one night. Working, walking around. You lost my son through carelessness. That was the first time I cried hidden in the bathroom, with the faucet running so he wouldn't hear me. But it wouldn't be the last. After the miscarriage, Gerald changed completely. The mask fell off entirely. The Prince Charming turned into a frog, and what a poisonous frog, my God. Folks, I see this story is getting long, but I really want to share everything with you. I need to take a moment to ask, if you're enjoying this account, would you help me by clicking like and subscribing to the channel? Each new subscription warms this grandma's heart. And don't forget to comment where you're watching from. Back to the story. The first year of marriage ended with a reality very different from what I had dreamed. Gerald was no longer the attentive and affectionate man from our courtship. Now he was controlling, jealous, always in a bad mood. He criticized everything. My cooking, my clothes, my way of talking, even my way of breathing seemed to irritate him. You breathe too loudly. How do you expect me to sleep with that noise? Gradually, I closed myself off. Talking less, smiling less, trying to do everything perfectly to give no reason for complaints. I was walking on eggshells in my own home. Even so, I still believed we could work out, that it was just a difficult phase, that the caring Gerald would return. After all, we had been so happy at the beginning. What had happened to that man? In the 2nd year of marriage, I got pregnant again. This time, I took every precaution. I reduced my workload at school, rested more, followed all medical recommendations. Gerald seemed more excited about this pregnancy, more protective. Now it will work out, he would say, with that smile that had won me over. I'll have my child. But in the 5th month, I lost this baby too. Different complication, same devastating result. The sadness was even greater because I'd already felt the baby move, had already started buying little clothes. This time, Gerald didn't even wait until we left the hospital to show his anger. In the car, on the way home, he started, "There's something wrong with you. Normal women don't lose children like this. My mother had 8 with no problem. The doctor said it happens, Gerald. It's no one's fault. It is your fault. Your body doesn't work right." We arrived home, and he continued, increasingly aggressive in his words. For the first time, I threw in his face everything that had been stuck in my throat for months. "And you think you help? With your bad mood, your criticism, your way of treating me like a maid?" That's when I received the first slap. Hard, in the face, throwing me against the wall. The taste of blood in my mouth, the shock greater than the pain. "Never talk to me like that again," he said through his teeth. "I'm your husband. You owe me respect." That night, while he slept, I thought about running away, going back to my parents' house, but I felt ashamed. What would they think? The daughter who couldn't keep her marriage, who couldn't give them grandchildren? At that time, a separated woman was viewed differently. She was a failure, a woman who couldn't keep her husband. And I, raised to be the perfect wife, didn't want that label. So I swallowed my tears and stayed. First mistake of many. The 3rd year of marriage was when everything fell apart completely. Gerald lost his job at the furniture store, a fight with the boss, something about money missing from the register. He swore innocence, but his eyes had that gleam I had learned to recognize when he lied. He was unemployed for months. I supported the house with my teacher's salary, which was barely enough for the basics. Drinking, which had always been social, became daily. First a beer at lunch, then two, then whiskey straight from the bottle from early on. Drunk, he got even worse. Criticism turned into insults, slaps turned into punches. I began having to explain black eyes and cut lips to colleagues at work. I fell down the stairs. I hit my face on the cabinet door, the usual excuses. And people pretended to believe them because it was more comfortable than getting involved. My parents, who lived a few streets away, began to suspect. My mother asked me directly, but I denied it. My father looked at Gerald with suspicion on the rare occasions we still visited them. "Daughter, if something is wrong, you know you can come back home," my mother said one day when she caught me crying in the kitchen. "Everything's fine, Mom. It's just a difficult phase. It will pass." But it didn't pass. It only got worse. It was around that time that I noticed the neighbor getting closer. Marcia, a recently divorced woman, about 5 years older than me. Beautiful, blonde-dyed hair, always well-dressed even to stay at home. She worked as a cashier at the supermarket and lived alone in the house next to ours. At first, she was an angel. She brought me homemade cookies, asked if I needed help, talked to me when she saw me crying in the yard. She became a friend, a confidant. "He hits you? Honey, that's not normal. You need to get out of there." "I can't, Marcia. I have nowhere to go." "Yes, you do. The world is big. You're young, beautiful, intelligent. You deserve better." Gerald didn't like the friendship. He said Marcia was a loose woman, that she would lead me astray. I defended her, said she was the only friend I had. What I didn't know was that, while I was teaching, Gerald and Marcia had grown closer, in another way. One day, I found at home a matchbox from a bar on the other side of town. I thought it strange. Gerald usually drank at home or at the corner bar. "I went to check out a new place," he said when I asked. "Now you're going to control where I drink too?" Another time, I smelled a different perfume on his shirt. Sweet, strong perfume. "I bumped into a woman on the bus," he explained, irritated. "Stop being neurotic." All the signs were there. But I didn't want to see them. Or maybe I didn't want to believe that, on top of everything else, he was cheating on me. The new job came 4 months later. Salesman at a hardware store. Lower salary. But at least it was something. I thought things would get better. For a few weeks, they did improve. Gerald started drinking less, smiling more. He began grooming himself for work, taking proper showers, wearing cologne. I thought it was because of the new job. "You're different, more animated," I commented one day. "Life is getting better. Soon we'll have money again. Maybe even try for another child." Another child. Even after everything I had been through, my heart still raced at the idea. I still dreamed of a happy family, with a baby in my arms. Foolishness of a woman who doesn't learn. It was on May 15th, 1975, I'll never forget this date, that everything changed forever. It was a rainy Friday. I came home from school earlier because the ceiling of a classroom was leaking and they sent the students home. I opened the door and heard laughter. A woman's laughter coming from our bedroom. The world stopped. My heart stopped. I knew what I would find. But still, I wasn't prepared. I cracked open the bedroom door and saw Gerald and Marcia in my bed, in the place where I slept every night. I closed the door without making a sound. They didn't even notice. I went to the kitchen, sat down, stared at nothing. I couldn't cry. I couldn't scream. I just felt an immense emptiness. Half an hour later, I heard the back door opening and closing. Marcia sneaking out, not to be caught. Then Gerald came out of the bedroom, whistling. When he saw me sitting in the kitchen, he stopped in his tracks. "What are you doing home at this hour? They let us out early." "Rain." He looked at me, at the clock on the wall, back at me. I saw the exact moment he realized I knew. "Did you see something?" he asked, his voice already changing. "I saw everything. You and Marcia, in our bed." I expected shouting, slapping, denial. But he laughed, as if it were a joke. And what are you going to do, huh? Who are you going to tell? I got up from the chair, legs wobbly. I'm leaving. It's over, Gerald. That's when he changed. The laugh turned into a growl. His eyes got small, dark. You're not going anywhere. You're my wife. You only leave when I let you. I'm not a thing to have an owner. It's over. I tried to walk past him, to go to the bedroom to get my things. That's when the real hell began. Gerald blocked my path with his body, big, strong, blocking the way like a wall of flesh and hatred. I tried to go around him. He pushed me back. I fell sitting on the chair, the shock greater than the pain. You're not going anywhere, he said through his teeth. This house is mine. You are mine. The house is rented, Gerald, and I am not property. It's over. Let me pass. I tried to get up again. That's when he gave me the first slap. Hard in the face, throwing me to the side. Shut up, whore! Spying on me now? Who gave you that right? Another slap, harder. Then a punch to the stomach that doubled me over, breathless. I fell to my knees, vision blurred with pain and tears. He grabbed me by the hair, dragged me across the kitchen. Want to know why I was with Marcia? Because she's a real woman. She knows how to please a man. She's not frigid like you. He threw me against the wall. My head hit it. I saw stars. He continued, increasingly out of control. Words worse than the blows, destroying what little self-esteem I had left. You can't even give me a child, barren, worthless. The blows came non-stop. Punches, kicks, slaps. I tried to protect myself, to curl up, but he was much stronger. At some point, I stopped feeling pain. I stopped feeling anything. I just wanted it to end. I don't know how long it lasted. In my memory, it was hours, but maybe it was minutes. I only know that when he finally stopped, I was lying on the kitchen floor, one eye so swollen I could barely open it, blood running from my nose, my mouth, from a cut on my eyebrow. Gerald stood looking down at me, panting from the effort of beating me. Then he spat on the floor, next to me. If you try to leave again, I'll kill you. Understand? I didn't answer. I didn't have the strength even to speak. Understand, he yelled, kicking me in the ribs. I understand, I managed to whisper. He walked away, grabbed his keys, his wallet. I'm going out. When I get back, I want dinner ready and you with a better face. Put ice on that face. It's too ugly. And he left me there, on the floor, bleeding, without help, without comfort, without anything. I lay there for what seemed like forever. Each breath hurt. Each movement was agony, but something inside me said I needed to get out of there, that if I stayed, he would kill me. I dragged myself to the telephone in the living room. I thought about calling my parents, but I knew my father would come kill Gerald and end up in jail. I thought about the police, but back then, police didn't get involved in couples' fights. I called the only person I still trusted, my older sister, Lois, who lived a few blocks away. Lois, help me. Gerald, he beat me. Badly. I could barely speak between sobs and pain. My God, Dorothy, stay there, I'm coming. Lois arrived in 15 minutes, accompanied by her husband, John. When they saw me, they were in shock. Jesus Christ, we're going to the hospital right now, John said, picking me up in his arms as if I were a child. No, not the hospital. He'll find me there. To our house, then. Lois, get some of her clothes. Lois went into the bedroom and came back pale. John, there's blood on the bed. A lot of blood. And it's not hers. I understood immediately. Marcia, had Gerald done something to her too? Or was it another kind of blood? At that moment, I couldn't even think straight. They took me to their house. John was a construction worker, Lois a seamstress. They had a modest but tidy house with 2 small children who widened their eyes when they saw me in that state. Aunt Dot fell down the stairs, Lois quickly explained, sending the children to the backyard. She cleaned my wounds, put ice on the bruises, gave me painkillers. While caring for me, she spoke softly. How long has it been like this, Dorothy? Why didn't you tell us? I cried. I cried like I had never cried in my life. I told everything. The abuse that started after the first miscarriage, the daily humiliations, the cheating with Marcia. And why didn't you leave? Why did you put up with this? Shame. I thought I could fix it, that he would change. John, who was listening to everything from the door, shook his head. He won't change, sister-in-law. A man who hits a woman only gets worse. Never better. That night, I slept at my sister's house, heavy sleep of medication and exhaustion. When I woke up in the morning, every inch of my body hurt. My face so swollen, I barely recognized myself in the bathroom mirror. My God, what have I done with my life? Lois convinced me to file a report. We went to the police station. Me limping, leaning on her, wearing dark glasses to hide the most visible bruises. The officer who attended us seemed bored. He noted everything with the face of someone who had heard that story 1,000 times. Ma'am, do you want to press charges against your husband? I do. You know you'll need a medical examination, right? And that he could be arrested? I know. Is that really what you want? You're going to destroy the man's life. Don't you want to think it over? Destroy his life? What about mine? Who cared about my destroyed life? But I swallowed my outrage. I'm sure. I want to file the complaint. I did the medical examination. List of injuries. Multiple bruises on face and body, cut on left eyebrow requiring 6 stitches, 2 cracked ribs, head trauma, kidney injury. The doctor who examined me whispered as he noted, "If you go back home, he'll kill you next time." I didn't go back. I stayed at my sister's house while the police looked for Gerald. 3 days later, I received the news. He had disappeared. Taken clothes, documents, abandoned his job. Ran away like the coward he is, my brother-in-law said. Better this way, away from you. But there was still a detail missing in this whole story. Marcia, the neighbor, the lover, the friend, she had disappeared too. No one had seen her since that day. On the 4th day, I received an unexpected visit at my sister's house, the owner of the store where Gerald worked. Sorry to bother you, Mrs. Dorothy. I know you're going through a difficult time. But Gerald disappeared without collecting his last paycheck, and Miss Marcia also vanished. They ran away together, I said, my voice firmer than I expected. It seems so. But before that, he came to the store, got an advance that I shouldn't have given, and took some construction materials in her car. What materials? Cement? Lime? Tools? I thought it was strange. That's why I came to ask if you know anything about it. I didn't know, but a chill ran down my spine. Cement? Tools? And the blood on the bed? Another week passed. My bruises started to improve. I could walk without so much pain. My parents, who had been traveling to visit my sick aunt, returned and were horrified by my condition and my story. You should have told me before, daughter, my father said, his eyes watery. I would have gotten you out of there after the first slap. I was ashamed, Dad. I thought I would disappoint you. Disappoint us? Never. The only disappointment was this man we chose so badly. I began to rebuild my life. I took medical leave from school. The principal, very understanding, assured me that my job would be there when I returned. I went to live with my parents again, in my childhood bedroom that remained intact, waiting for me. I was reconstructing myself, day by day, when the bomb dropped. It was a June morning, almost a month after Gerald's escape. The police appeared at my parents' house. Mrs. Dorothy, we found your husband. My heart froze. Had he returned? Was he coming to get me? To kill me? Where? At Miss Marcia Gomes's small property on the outskirts of town. The two were there. Were? The officer exchanged glances with his colleague, uncomfortable. You need to come with us. They took me to the property, a small piece of land that I didn't even know Marcia owned. There, a scene from a horror movie. Police everywhere, tapes isolating areas, people digging a hole in the ground. What happened here? Your husband and Mrs. Marcia had a disagreement. Disagreement. What a strange word to describe what I saw next. Marcia's body was in an improvised grave at the back of the property. She had been brutally beaten, like me, but she didn't have the same luck. She died from her injuries. Gerald tried to hide the body in a poorly made mixture of lime and cement, the materials he got from the store. And him? I asked, in shock. He tried to escape when we arrived. He reacted, was armed. There was a shootout. I understood what they weren't saying. Gerald was also dead. The following days were a blur, giving statements. hearing details I didn't want to know, understanding what had happened. According to what the police discovered, Gerald and Marcia had planned to run away together. He beat me that day and went to meet her at the property where they had arranged to meet. He took the construction materials because he intended to renovate the place. They had plans to live there. But there was a fight. Violent. The neighbors of the property heard screams but didn't intervene. Rural area, everyone minds their own business. When the shouting stopped, they saw Gerald digging a hole in the middle of the night. They only reported it because days later they smelled a strong, strange odor coming from the property. I should have felt anger toward Marcia. She betrayed my trust, slept with my husband, planned to run away with him, but I could only feel sorry for her. In the end, she met the same Gerald I did, the monster behind the mask. And she paid with her life. The town newspapers had a field day with the story. Crime of passion ends in tragedy. My name appeared everywhere, my wedding photo next to the photo of the body being removed from the property. I became the murderer's widow. I couldn't walk down the street anymore without feeling the stares, the whispers. Parents pulled their children from my class. They didn't want the murderer's wife teaching their children. A week later, the principal called me in. "Dorothy, you know I like you very much, but the parents are pressuring. The school can't." I lost the job I loved, the profession I had chosen, all because of a man I never deserved to have in my life. I spent months in deep depression. I didn't leave my room, barely ate. My parents, concerned, called doctors, ministers, even faith healers. Nothing helped. I was drowning in guilt. What if I had realized earlier how Gerald was? What if I had reported the first incidents of abuse? Marcia would be alive today. "It wasn't your fault, daughter," my mother repeated every day. It was his fault, only his, but I couldn't believe it. It was my father who finally brought me back to life. One Sunday in September, he entered my room with 2 bus tickets in hand. "Where are these for?" I asked, my voice hoarse from crying so much. "Louisville, a big city in Kentucky. Beautiful place with the Ohio River, far from here. And why 2 tickets? One for me, one for you. We're going to start over, daughter. There, nobody knows us. Nobody knows our story. We can be new again. And Mom? She'll stay with your sister for now. When we get settled, she'll join us." And so, with 2 small suitcases and a lot of courage, I left Pikeville on October 10th, 1975. 24 years old, widowed, marked by violence, but still alive, still breathing, still able to start over. The trip to Louisville was long. 12 hours on the road, the bus bouncing on every curve. I kept looking out the window the whole time, watching the landscape change, the mountains of the interior giving way to the first signs of the city. "See that, daughter?" My father pointed when we began to cross the bridge that connects to downtown. "That's the Ohio River. Beautiful, isn't it?" It was beautiful indeed. The blue water, the colorful boats, the outline of the city against the sky. So different from the red earth and mountains of Pikeville. There, at that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope. We arrived with no place to stay, no job, knowing no one. But we had each other and the determination to build something new. My father, the practical man he was, already had a plan. In the first days, we stayed at a simple boarding house downtown. He would leave early every day, return at night, tired but optimistic. "There's work here, daughter. Lots of work. The city is growing. The port is full of jobs." A week later, he arrived with the keys to a small rented room in Butchertown, a simple but decent neighborhood. 2 weeks later, he was already working as a construction helper at the port. And me? I took longer to find myself. Fear still paralyzed me. Nightmares still woke me sweating in the middle of the night. The marks, visible and invisible, still hurt. But the big city has this advantage. Nobody asks where you came from or what you did. Everyone is too busy with their own lives. Louisville welcomed me like a mother receiving a lost child. The river, the wind with its hint of salt, the hills embracing the city. Everything seemed to say, "Welcome home, you belong here now." In those first months, I lived like a shadow. I rarely went out, spoke little, and hid at home while my father worked. Our small room in Butchertown was tiny but clean. Just one room with a small bathroom, 2 single beds, a 2-burner stove, a small table. Luxury for those who had nothing. From the window, I could see a sliver of the Ohio River between buildings. That little glimpse became my obsession, my comfort. On sleepless nights, I would watch the lights reflected on the water, counting boats, dreaming of distant places where nobody knew my name or my story. "You need to get out, daughter. Get some sun, see people," my father insisted on weekends. He'd drag me to the waterfront park, still wild in those days. We'd walk on the sand, barefoot, warm water lapping at our ankles. Gradually, the tension in my shoulders eased. The permanent knot in my throat loosened. It was at the park that I met Lenore, a funnel cake vendor who set up her colorful stand every Sunday. A strong black woman with an easy smile and eyes that saw far beyond what we showed. "You're carrying too much weight, girl," she told me one day as she handed me a warm funnel cake. "You weren't made to carry so much." I don't know why, but those simple words opened the floodgates. I started crying right there, in front of her, her stand, her other customers. I cried like a lost child. Lenore didn't get flustered. She didn't ask questions. She just came to me, hugged me tight, and led me to a wooden bench behind her stand. "Cry it all out. Cry until you're dry. Then we'll talk." I cried for an hour. She stayed there, rubbing my back, murmuring words of comfort. When I finally stopped, exhausted, she offered me water, a piece of bread, a clean handkerchief. "Now tell me," and I did. For the first time since arriving in Louisville, I told my whole story to someone who wasn't family. I spoke about Gerald, the abuse, Marcia, the deaths, the escape to start over. Lenore listened to everything without interrupting. When I finished, she held my hands in hers. My small white teacher's hands between her large, calloused hands of the funnel cake vendor. "You survived, child. You know what that means? That you're stronger than everything that happened to you." Survivor. I had never thought of myself that way. I had always seen myself as a victim, as a failure, as a woman who couldn't keep her husband or see the danger signs. "Come work with me," Lenore continued. "Not at the park. I have a small diner in the Haymarket district. I need help, and you need a reason to leave the house." My father was wary at first. Strange woman, unknown man. But when he met Lenore and her husband Samuel, he changed his mind. He saw in them what I had seen. Good, genuine people with no ulterior motives. I started working at the diner in January 1976. I washed dishes, cleaned tables, helped at the register. At first it was difficult. The noise of the market scared me. Men made me tense. Every shout made me jump. But Lenore had infinite patience. "One day at a time, child. Today is just today. Tomorrow is another day." The salary wasn't much, but it helped with expenses. Soon my mother was able to join us in Louisville. We rented a larger apartment in Portland. 2 rooms now, one for my parents, one for me. Absolute luxury after the cramped room. With my mother nearby, I improved faster. She brought from Pikeville the old recipes she loved so much, the pots of plants she cultivated on the windowsill, the colorful embroidery that gave life to white walls. She brought the smell of home, of childhood, of simpler times. "This city is good," she would say, while watering the plants. "It has open air, has horizon. We breathe better here." I did breathe, deeper and deeper, with less and less fear. The nightmares became less frequent. I began to sleep entire nights, to wake up rested. I began to smile again, first timidly, then more frequently. At the market, I met people of all kinds. Dock workers with stories of the deep river, ladies who sold herbs and prayers, children who ran between the stalls, stealing fruit when no one was looking. Homeless people who slept in the corners, for whom Lenore always saved a coffee and bread at the end of the day. Everyone has a story, child. Everyone carries pain. Some show it, others hide it. But everyone bleeds inside. Lenore's simple wisdom healed me more than any therapy, which I couldn't afford anyway. She taught me to look beyond my own pain, to see the suffering of others, to understand that I wasn't alone in the struggle. It was at the market that I also rediscovered something I had lost, the pleasure of teaching. I began giving informal classes to the children of vendors after hours. children who often missed school to help their parents at the stalls. I used overturned crates as desks, wrote with charcoal on pieces of cardboard. I had no books, no decent notebooks, but I had willingness, and the children were hungry to learn. "Are you a real teacher?" asked little Timmy, son of a fish vendor, while I explained division using seashells. "I was, once." "And why did you stop?" "Because life sometimes takes away what we love most. And can't you get it back?" The innocent question hit me like lightning. Why not? Why couldn't I take back what was rightfully mine by vocation? The fear of Gerald no longer existed. He was dead. The shame of the story. No one in Louisville knew my past. That night, I talked with my parents about going back to school, getting a college degree, an official diploma. "This is what I want, Dad. To be a teacher again. For real, with a classroom, students, chalk in hand." My father, who never stopped believing in me, smiled in a way that lit up the entire room. "If that's what you want, daughter, that's what you'll have." It wasn't easy. I worked all day at the market, studied at night. When the University of Louisville opened spots for the education program, I signed up. I took the entrance exam at 26, competing with young people fresh out of high school. I passed, in 20th place, but I passed. It was the beginning of my true reconstruction. University life opened horizons I didn't know existed. Ideas, debates, books, different people. I learned about John Dewey and his progressive education, about Montessori and her child-centered method, about theories and practices that transformed lives through education. While studying, I continued giving my informal lessons at the market. Now, with more technique, more foundation, the children responded with increasing enthusiasm. The parents began to notice the difference. Children who previously could barely write their names now read small texts, did math, asked about the world. "What you're doing with these children is a miracle," Lenore commented one day. "They arrive here with dead eyes, leave shining." It's not a miracle. It's education. It's showing them they can be more than they think they can. In 1979, in my last year of college, an opportunity arose to intern at a public school in Smoketown, a poor neighborhood on the outskirts of Louisville. It was far, the public transportation poor, the salary almost symbolic, but it was a real classroom. It was a chance to go back to doing what I loved. I took on a literacy class. 30 children between 6 and 10 years old, many repeaters, some who had never set foot in a school before. The room was small, stuffy, with broken desks and a cracked blackboard. But to me, it was a palace. On the first day, I looked at those children. Messy hair, clothes often too big or too small, looks ranging from fear to curiosity, from aggression to hope. And I saw myself in them. Vulnerable, but strong. Hurt, but whole. Survivors, like me. "My name is Teacher Dorothy," I introduced myself. "And I'm here because I believe in you more than you believe in yourselves." It was there, in that stuffy public school classroom, that I finally understood. Everything I had lived through had a purpose. Each pain, each humiliation, each moment of despair brought me to that place, made me the teacher those children needed, someone who understood what it was to fight against the impossible, someone who knew what it was to start over from zero. At the end of the year, I managed to teach 28 of the 30 children to read and write. The other 2 had learning difficulties that required specialized monitoring, something I fought to get for them. The principal, impressed with the results, offered me a permanent contract as soon as I graduated. "You have a gift, Dorothy. These children need you." In December 1979, at 28, I graduated in education. My parents were at the graduation, as proud as if I had won a Nobel Prize. Lenore and Samuel, too, bringing a huge basket of pastries that fed the entire party. My classmates, most 10 years younger than me, elected me class speaker. "It's never too late to start over," I said in my speech. "It's never too late to be who you should have been before life interrupted you." Life was finally getting on track. I had a profession, had purpose, had family and friends who loved me. The past still hurt when touched, but it no longer bled. That's when the past came knocking at my door. It was a March afternoon in 1980. I was in the classroom teaching my little ones to read when the principal appeared at the door. Dorothy, someone wants to talk to you. It's urgent. In the hallway, a woman was waiting for me. About 50, graying hair, face marked by life. I didn't recognize her immediately. Dorothy, I'm Nancy, Gerald's sister. The world stopped. The name I hadn't heard in almost 5 years, that I avoided even thinking about. Gerald. The man who nearly killed me. The man who killed another and died running from the police. What do you want? I managed to ask, my voice trembling. We need to talk. It's about my nephew. Nephew? Gerald didn't have children? Not with you, with Marcia. The revelation fell like a bomb. Marcia was pregnant when she died? There was a child? A son of Gerald walking around in the world? She had the baby before. Before what happened, Nancy continued. She left him with my mother when she went to meet Gerald at that property. Nobody knew, not even the police. And why are you looking for me now? My mother died last month. The boy stayed with me, but I'm sick. Cancer. I can't take care of him anymore. And what does that have to do with me? You were Gerald's wife. Legally, you're the closest relative after me. You're asking me to care for the child of the man who almost killed me? With the woman he cheated on me with? She lowered her eyes, ashamed. I know it's a lot to ask. But the boy isn't to blame. He's 4 years old. He's an innocent child. Where is he now? In the car, with my husband. Do you want to see him? I didn't want to. I wanted to run, scream, deny that absurd reality. But a force greater than fear made me say yes. We went to the parking lot. An old car was parked under a tree. A man sitting at the wheel waved when he saw us. In the back seat, a child looked out the window. Small boy for his age, black hair, big eyes. When he saw me, he smiled a smile I knew well. The same smile that once enchanted me on Gerald's face. Aunt Nancy, who's that lady? She's a friend, Lucas. A friend who's going to take care of you for a few days. Days. She had said days. But her eyes said something else. I can't, I said softly, so the boy wouldn't hear. It's too much for me. He has no one else. He'll go to an orphanage. Why didn't you look for Marcia's family? I did. No one wanted anything to do with him. Her father said his grandson died along with his daughter. I looked at the boy again. I didn't see Gerald in him now. Or Marcia. I just saw a child, frightened, confused, about to lose what little stability he knew. Give me time to think. I don't have time, Dorothy. The chemotherapy starts tomorrow. I can't take care of him like this. One day, give me 1 day. She hesitated, then agreed. I'll come back tomorrow at this same time. If you don't want to keep him, I'll go straight to social services. I spent the night awake. I walked along the river until dawn, talking to the water, to the stars, to the ghosts of my past. How could I raise Gerald's son? How would I look at that face every day and not see the man who destroyed my life? But how could I condemn an innocent child to grow up without family, without love? I, who knew what it was to be marked by a story I didn't choose. In the morning, still without an answer, I went to teach. I looked at my students. Children who had taught me so much about forgiveness, about new beginnings, about seeing beyond the scars. I thought about little Lucas, who didn't ask to be born to those parents, who didn't ask to be abandoned. During the break, I called my parents. I need to tell you something. It's complicated. I explained everything. I waited for the negative reaction, the shock, the refusal. Bring him home, my mother said simply. What? The boy. Bring him home. If he's going to be your son, he's going to be our grandson too. Mom? He's Gerald's son. So? The child isn't to blame for who his father is, or his mother. That afternoon when Nancy returned, I already had my answer. I'll keep him, she cried. She took a folder with documents from her purse, birth certificate, vaccination card, some photos. Thank you. I know I didn't deserve this from you. Lucas came to me, curious but cautious. I squatted to be at his height. Hi, Lucas. Remember me? I'm Dorothy. Am I going to live with you? You are. There's a park near my house. Do you like parks? His little eyes sparkled. I do. Grandma never took me. In that moment, looking at that child who carried the blood of the man who almost killed me, I made the most important decision of my life. The past would not define my future, or his. I took Lucas home that same afternoon. My parents received him with open arms, without hesitation, without judgment. My mother had already prepared the room, arranged old toys she kept, I don't know from where or why. Come, my boy. Want a piece of cake? I made chocolate, the way children like it. Come, my boy. Want a piece of cake? I made chocolate, the way children like it. Lucas, initially shy, soon loosened up with my parents' affection. For the first time, I saw him smile without reservations, a smile of a child who feels safe. Lying in bed that night, listening to the quiet breathing of the boy now sleeping in the room next door, I understood that life had given me a chance to heal not just myself, but to interrupt a cycle, to prevent the hatred, the violence, the pain that Gerald carried from passing to another generation. I would be a mother. In a way I never imagined, in circumstances no one could predict. But I would. And I would do differently from everything I had experienced. Tomorrow, for the first time in many years, seemed brighter than yesterday. Raising Lucas changed everything. The first months were adaptation, him asking about Aunt Nancy, crying at night, finding the new house, the new family strange. Me learning to be a mother suddenly, at 29, of a 4-year-old boy who carried in his blood a history I so wanted to forget. Why doesn't Aunt Nancy come get me? He asked, almost every day. She's sick, my dear. She needs to stay in the hospital to get better. And then when she gets better, will I leave? The question broke my heart. The insecurity in his eyes, the fear of new abandonment. No, Lucas, this is your home now. Forever. Explaining the situation to a child that age was a daily challenge. How to say that his biological father had killed his biological mother? How to explain that his aunt probably wouldn't survive cancer? How to make him understand that now I was his mother, not by blood, but by choice? I adapted the truth. Small doses, appropriate for his age. Your father and mother had to go to heaven, but before, they asked me to take care of you. It wasn't a complete lie. Somewhere, I believed that Marcia, if she could choose, would prefer to see her son with someone who loved him, even if it was me. I enrolled Lucas in school, bought clothes, toys, children's books, adapted work hours to be with him. My parents helped when I taught. My father already retired, my mother always at home. We made it work. A few months later, I received the news. Nancy had passed away. The cancer faster than the doctors predicted. I told Lucas gently, your Aunt Nancy is now in heaven too, with your father and mother. He cried, of course, but less than I feared. He was already getting attached to the new family, already calling me Aunt Dot with affection in his voice. In July that year, 1980, I made another important decision, to legally adopt Lucas. The lawyers said it would be a simple process, since I was the widow of the biological father and there were no other relatives wanting custody. When the judge asked if I was sure, I looked at the boy playing in the corner of the courtroom, oblivious to the moment that would change our lives forever. I am more certain of this than anything else I've ever done. In October, Lucas Thompson officially became Lucas Wilson, my son before the law, as he already was in my heart. Raising a child alone in the 80s, being a public school teacher, wasn't easy. Money, always tight, had to stretch to cover all needs. School uniform, teaching materials, doctor when he got sick, clothes he outgrew too quickly. I took extra classes at night, gave tutoring on weekends to children from wealthier families. Every penny mattered. Every sacrifice was worth it when I saw Lucas growing up healthy, happy, secure. In 1982, I received a proposal to be a pedagogical coordinator at the same school where I taught. Better salary, fewer hours in the classroom, more responsibility. I accepted immediately. Mom, are you a boss now? Lucas asked when I told him, his eyes wide with admiration. Not exactly, son. I'm just going to help other teachers be better for the students. Like you do with me when you teach me lessons? Similar. But you're still my favorite student. His smile lit up my world. How could a child born of so much pain bring so much light? That same year, we bought our first house. Small, in a simple neighborhood, but ours. 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for Lucas. A yard where I planted the same flowers my mother grew in Pikeville. My parents continued in the apartment in Portland but came to visit us every weekend. For the first time since I left Pikeville, I felt truly established, with roots, with a future. Lucas grew up too fast. At 8, he was already a smart, curious boy with a special talent for drawing. He filled notebooks with sketches, landscapes, people, imaginary animals. "Where does this gift come from?" I asked my mother, watching Lucas draw intently. "His mother, maybe?" "Did you know if this Marcia drew?" I didn't know. I knew so little about the woman whose place, ironically, I had taken in Lucas's life. About Gerald, I preferred not to see anything in the boy, although sometimes a gesture, an expression would catch me off guard, bringing memories I preferred buried. In 1985, at 34, I met Anthony. A math teacher transferred from Tennessee. He started working at the same school as me. A gentle, calm man with infinite patience to explain fractions and decimals to frustrated children. "Are you the coordinator, Dorothy?" "Pleasure, Anthony Parker." Firm but not intimidating handshake. Direct but respectful gaze. Discreet smile without pretension to charm. I began to notice him during breaks. In the way he treated students with difficulties, without rush, without judgment. How he listened to the doubts of younger teachers without mansplaining. How he brought coffee to the secretary when she was overloaded. Small gestures that spoke more than grand declarations. One day, Lucas had an appendicitis attack. He needed emergency surgery. I was desperate. Called the school to say I wouldn't be coming. Anthony showed up at the hospital hours later. "I came to see if you need anything. I can get clothes, food, whatever you need." The kindness touched me. I wasn't used to receiving help from men who weren't my father. "Not necessary, but thank you. My parents are on their way." "I understand, but I'll stay here with you until they arrive. No one should wait alone in a hospital." He stayed. We talked about everything and nothing. About books, movies, places we'd like to visit. About education, about dreams for our students. About coffee. He preferred freshly brewed. I liked instant for practicality. When my parents arrived, I thought he would leave. But he stayed. Bought lunch for everyone, made jokes to ease the tension, waited until Lucas came out of surgery, and we knew everything was okay. "Thank you for today," I said when he was finally leaving. I did what any friend would do. "Are we friends?" "I'd like us to be." Friendship turned into bi-weekly dinners. Dinners turned into Sunday outings. Outings turned into shy kisses when Lucas was asleep. I was afraid. So afraid. The memories of Gerald still haunted. The violence, the betrayal, the pain. How could I trust another man? How would I know that Anthony wouldn't change later, as Gerald had changed? "You deserve to be happy, daughter," my mother would say. "Don't let a ghost steal your future." Anthony was patient. He didn't pressure, didn't demand, didn't require. He respected my pace, my fears, my reservations. In 1987, after 2 years of relationship, he asked me to marry him. It wasn't anything spectacular. He just asked during a dinner at home, with Lucas participating in the conversation. "Dorothy, Lucas, I want to ask you something important. Can we be a family? For real?" Lucas, then 11 years old, answered before me. "Will you be my dad? If you want, and if your mother accepts." The boy looked at me, anxious for the answer. At that moment, I realized I wasn't deciding just for myself. Lucas needed a father, a real father, not just the idealized memory I had built to protect him from the horrible truth. "Yes," I answered, tears in my eyes. "Let's be a family." We married in a simple ceremony, just family and close friends. Lucas was the best man, proud in the small suit he chose himself. My father gave his daughter away for the second time, now with certainty in his heart that it would be a happy ending. Anthony moved into our house. We didn't need a honeymoon or big changes. The transition was natural, as if he had always belonged there. The first time Lucas called him Dad was during a soccer game in the backyard. Ball improvised with socks, goalposts made of shoes. "Dad, look what I can do." Anthony froze. He looked at me as if asking permission. I nodded, my heart overflowing. "I see, son. Very good." Lucas ran to hug him. The two of them there, in the Sunday afternoon, united not by blood but by something stronger. Choice, love, respect. In 1988, I received an invitation to be the principal of a new school in a poor neighborhood. Huge challenge. Precarious structure, children at risk, demotivated teachers. I hesitated. It's too much, I confessed to Anthony. With Lucas, with the house, with everything. You can do it, Dorothy. If anyone can transform that school, it's you. And if I fail, you won't. But if it happens, we'll be here. Your safe harbor. I accepted. New Hope Elementary School became my second home. I arrived early, left late. I knew each student by name, each family, each challenge. In 1 year, we reduced school dropout by 60%. In 2, we improved literacy rates. In 3, we had a community garden, an improvised library with donated books, music classes on weekends. How did you do this? Asked the Secretary of Education during a visit. I didn't do it alone. We built it together. Teachers, students, families. In 1990, at 39, when I thought my family was complete, I discovered I was pregnant. Total surprise. Doctors had said I probably couldn't get pregnant after the physical trauma suffered with Gerald. Are you sure, doctor? I asked, incredulous, looking at the test result. Absolutely. You're 2 months along. Congratulations, Anthony cried when I told him. Lucas, then 14, oscillated between excitement and jealousy. Will you love the baby more than me? He asked one night, vulnerable as I hadn't seen him in years. Never. You were my first child. I chose you. Nothing changes that. The pregnancy was smooth, unlike the ones I had with Gerald. Older body, but peaceful soul. I worked until the 8th month, big belly and all energy. Amy was born in June 1991, a sunny, mild spring morning. Normal delivery, quick, almost without pain. She's so small, Lucas said, holding his sister with infinite care. I need to protect her, and he did. Zealous older brother, vigilant, affectionate, changed diapers, gave bottles, told stories. Drew characters to lull his sister to sleep. Life finally seemed perfect. Complete family, stable career, own home. The ghosts of the past increasingly distant, memories that no longer hurt so much. Until in 1992, Lucas, then 16, asked the question I most feared. Mom, I need to know the truth about my biological father. We were alone at home. Anthony had taken Amy for vaccines. Lucas was waiting for me in the kitchen when I got home from work, with a serious, determined expression. Why now, son? I need the original birth certificate for a school document. I saw his name. Gerald Thompson. I researched in the library. I found old news. I froze. The news. The murder, the escape, the shootout with the police. My name in the headlines as the murderer's widow. Everything I had tried to protect him from. Son, is it true? Did he kill my biological mother? Did he beat you? I sat down, legs wobbly. The moment I had postponed for 12 years had finally arrived. It's true, Lucas, but it's more complicated than the news tells. And I told him everything. The complete story. Without softening, without hiding. He deserved the truth, as painful as it was. I told about the courtship, the marriage, the first aggressions, the miscarriages, the drinking, the unemployment, Marcia, the betrayal, the escape, the day Gerald almost killed me. I told about the property, about how the police found the bodies, how Nancy appeared years later with him, still a baby, how I made the most important decision of my life, to be his mother, despite everything. Lucas listened in silence, silent tears running down his face that already showed traces of the man he would soon become. So I'm the son of a monster, he finally said, his voice choked. No, Lucas, you're my son, of the one who raised you, loved you, educated you. But his blood runs in me. What if I'm like him? What if one day Never. You'll never be like him. You know why? Because you grew up with love, with respect, with values. Gerald didn't have that. How can you be sure? Because I've been watching you for 12 years. I see how you treat your sister, how you respect the girls at school, how you help the weaker ones. Your character is already formed, son. And it's beautiful. He cried in my arms, cried like when he was little and had nightmares. But this time, the nightmare was real. It was his origin. It was his blood. Thank you for wanting me, Mom. Even after everything he did, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. You saved me as much as I saved you, and it was true. Lucas gave me purpose when I needed it most. He taught me to trust again, to love without fear. He made me believe in second chances when I thought my life was over. That night, when Anthony returned with Amy, I told him what had happened. He understood, as always. I'll talk to him, man to man. The two stayed for hours in the yard, talking under the stars. I don't know what Anthony said, but when they returned, Lucas was lighter, more serene. Dad says he wants to adopt me officially, Lucas commented later. So I can have his name too. Can I? Of course you can, if that's what you both want. I do. I want to be a Parker. Like you. In 1993, Lucas Wilson officially became Lucas Wilson Parker, a name that carried all his stories, the mother who chose him in Wilson, the father who accepted him in Parker. Life went on. Lucas graduated from high school with excellent grades. He won a scholarship to architecture school, his gift for drawing finding professional purpose. Amy grew up smart, talkative, curious about everything. In 1996, at 45, I received the Kentucky Educator of the Year award, recognition for the work we transformed together. Me, teachers, community. This award isn't just mine, I said in the speech. It's from every child who believed they could do more, from every family that trusted education as a path, from every teacher who didn't give up despite the difficulties. Lucas and Amy were in the audience, proud. Anthony filmed everything with a new camera, a wedding anniversary gift. On the way back home, Lucas, then 20, said something I will keep forever. When I grow up, I want to be like you, Mom. Someone who transforms lives. You already transformed, son. You transformed mine. The girl who once fled Pikeville with a broken heart and a marked body had succeeded. Not just surviving, but living fully. Not just existing, but making a difference. At 73, looking back, I see that each piece of my story, even the most painful ones, brought me here. To this moment, sharing with you what I learned, that life can break us, but we are the ones who choose how to glue the pieces back together. That the past shapes, but doesn't determine. That forgiveness, especially of ourselves, is the most difficult and necessary path. And that family isn't made of blood, but of daily choices, of love that remains even when it would be easier to give up. Today I look at my hands, wrinkled, spotted by time, with blue veins standing out like rivers on an old map, and think of everything they've already done. Held chalk in crowded classrooms, wiped tears from frightened children, shook the hands of grateful parents, cradled my children, caressed my husband, cultivated flowers in the yard of the house we built together. These same hands that once trembled with fear now move with the assurance of someone who knows exactly who they are and why they're here. The 2000s arrived with Lucas, a graduate architect working in a respected firm in Louisville. Amy finishing high school, dreaming of medical school. I want to heal people, Mom, like you heal with words, but with medicine too. I, at 49, continued as principal of the school that had become a reference in the municipal network. Anthony, area coordinator in the Department of Education, always supporting my boldest initiatives. Let's set up a community library open on weekends, I proposed at a meeting. With what money? Asked the network supervisor. Donations, joint effort, parents help with labor, students with campaigns, publishers with books. Money isn't the only resource we have, and so it was. In 6 months, we transformed an abandoned hall into a vibrant reading space. Teenagers who once wandered the streets were now discussing Mark Twain, Maya Angelou, Toni Morrison. In 2002, Lucas married Jennifer, a college colleague. A sweet, talented girl with the same passion for drawing and architecture. Simple wedding on the beach, feet in the sand, open hearts. Mom, he told me the day before while we adjusted the borrowed suit, I want you to know, everything I know about loving comes from you, from what you taught me. Me, son? But I spent years with so much fear. It's not the fear that matters. It's doing what's right in spite of it. That year, too, Amy was accepted into medical school. 6th place overall. Pride of the family. I cried when we received the news, imagining the girl who grew up in a simple neighborhood now transformed into a doctor. I did it, Mom. I'm going to be a doctor. I always knew you would, daughter. I never doubted. In 2005, at 54, I faced my first major health challenge. A lump in the breast, detected in a routine exam. 2 words no woman wants to hear. Breast cancer. We'll treat it, said the doctor. Caught early. Good chances. Anthony was more shaken than I was. He cried when I told him, hugged me as if I might disappear in his arms. I won't lose you. I can't. And you won't, my dear. I've faced worse than a rebellious little lump. I had surgery, radiation therapy, lost hair, gained a scar. But I never lost the certainty that I would live. I had so much more to do, so many children to help, so many moments with my family to enjoy. Lucas and Jennifer came every day after work. Amy, already in college, read medical articles, questioned treatments, checked medicines. My parents, already elderly but lucid, took turns making soups I could swallow on the worst days. 6 months later, the best news: complete remission. Continue the checkups, but you can resume your normal life. Normal. As if after facing death once more, there could be normality. But there was. A more precious, more vivid, more conscious normality. I returned to school with new energy. I started a medicinal herb garden project with the students. Each plant identified, its healing properties explained, the ancient wisdom of healing through nature recovered. Is Teacher Dorothy now a doctor too? The students joked. No, my dear. I just learned that prevention is better than treatment. That taking care of the body is as important as feeding the mind. In 2007, Lucas and Jennifer gave me my first grandchild. Peter was born on a March morning, rosy-cheeked, crying loudly, perfect. Want to hold him, Grandma? Lucas asked, his eyes shining. I took that little bundle in my arms, feeling the weight so light yet so significant. 3rd generation. Continuity. Life that goes on despite all obstacles. Hello, Peter, I whispered. I'm your Grandma Dot. I have so many stories to tell you when you grow up. Amy graduated from medical school in 2008, specializing in pediatrics. I want to take care of children, Mom, like you always did, but in my way. In 2010, at 59, I made the difficult decision to retire from school. Almost 20 years as principal, transforming not just the physical structure, but mentalities. It was time to pass the baton. But, Mrs. Dorothy, the school is you, argued the new Secretary of Education, trying to convince me to stay. It can't be. A school belongs to the community, to the students, to the parents, to the teachers. If it depends on just one person, it's not an institution. It's a personal project. I spent months preparing my successor, a young, dedicated teacher full of her own ideas. I created manuals, documented processes, shared lessons learned in practice that no college teaches. How do I know if I'm ready? She asked on my last day. We're never completely ready, but we're always capable of learning and improving. That's enough. Retirement opened a new chapter. Time to travel with Anthony, to see places we had only seen in photos. Time to visit Lucas and family, now with a 2nd grandchild on the way. Time to follow Amy's career, who was starting residency at a children's hospital. Time, finally, to try to reconcile with the past. In 2012, at 61, I made the trip I had postponed for decades. I returned to Pikeville. Are you sure you want to go? Anthony asked, concerned. You don't have to. Yes, I do. I need to close the circle. Pikeville had changed, grown, modernized, lost much of the small-town air I remembered. But some things remained. The big sandy river still cut through the town. The mountains still embraced the horizon. The heat still melted asphalt in July. I visited the house where I grew up, now a business, a clothing store. I visited the school where I gave my first classes, still functioning, new teachers, new children, same challenges. I visited places I avoided in memories, the house where I lived with Gerald, the market where I bought groceries, the church where I was married the first time. Looking for someone, ma'am? Asked a young attendant at the pharmacy that used to be Mr. John's store. Looking for ghosts, I replied, smiling. But I think they've gone away. And they had indeed. Looking at those streets, those buildings, I no longer felt the overwhelming weight of the past. I no longer saw Gerald at every corner, no longer heard his screams in every echo. I saw just a town, neither good nor bad. Just a place where part of my story happened. On the third day, I visited the cemetery. Not to see Gerald's grave. I never knew where he was buried, nor did I want to know. I went to see my in-laws, who died while I was still married. Simple people who couldn't control the son they raised, but who always treated me with kindness. "Rest in peace," I murmured, leaving simple flowers. I bear no grudge, and I really didn't. Time had softened even those most painful memories. Anger, fear, resentment, feelings that consume more those who carry them than their targets. I had learned to let go. I returned to Louisville lighter, as if I had left in Pikeville the last ties that still bound me to the past. "How was it?" Anthony asked when he picked me up at the terminal. "Liberating." In 2015, at 64, I lost my mother. Sudden stroke, quick death. She was tending to the plants on the porch when she simply collapsed. When the ambulance arrived, she'd already departed. A different pain from all the previous ones. Not the traumatic pain of violence, not the pain of abandonment or betrayal. Natural pain, part of the life cycle. A daughter burying a mother, an expected order, but never really accepted. "She seemed so well," my father lamented at the funeral, seeming to have aged decades in one day. "She was well, Dad. Happy. Surrounded by love. What better way to go?" My father followed her 8 months later. "Died of longing," said the neighbors. Perhaps. Or perhaps he simply no longer knew how to live without the companion of almost 60 years. Soulmates that not even death could separate for long. We inherited their apartment. We didn't have the heart to sell it. We transformed it into a community space where I offered free literacy classes for adults. A way to honor my mother, who valued education so much, and my father, who said that education is the only thing nobody can take from you. In 2018, Amy married a fellow doctor. Richard, an anesthesiologist, a calm man who brought peace to my daughter, always so intense, so passionate about everything she did. "He calms me, Mom. He's like a safe harbor in the storm that I am." The best marriages are like that, daughter. Complementary. One brings what the other needs. That same year, Lucas and Jennifer had their third child. They already had Peter and Julia. Now came the youngest, Dorothy. "You named her after me, son? Are you sure?" "Absolutely. We want her to know where she comes from, to carry the name of the strongest woman we know." In 2020, the world stopped with the pandemic. At 69, I found myself isolated at home, high risk, away from my grandchildren, from community activities, from the life I had built. Anthony and I reinvented ourselves. We learned technology, video calls, social media, messaging apps. I continued teaching adults to read and write, now through the computer screen. I told stories to my grandchildren by video, made bread with Amy remotely, each in her own kitchen. "You're more tech-savvy than me, Grandma," joked Peter, now a teenager, teaching me to use funny filters. It was during the pandemic that Lucas suggested, "Mom, why don't you tell your story to more people? It might help those who are going through difficult times." My story? Who would want to hear it? Everyone. It's a story of overcoming, of love, of new beginnings. People need that now more than ever. Still reluctant, I recorded my first video on my cell phone. Total amateur, bad lighting, worse framing. I talked about how I was facing isolation, how I maintained hope in dark times. Lucas edited it and posted it on an improvised YouTube channel. Grandparents' Tales. To my surprise, the video went viral. Hundreds, then thousands of views. Emotional comments. "Mrs. Dorothy, you remind me of my grandmother who I lost. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. This video gave me hope when I was almost giving up. Thank you. More, please. We want more stories from Grandma." And so began my late career as a digital influencer, as Amy jokes. Weekly videos telling stories of overcoming, some mine, others I witnessed throughout life. Old recipes, gardening tips, reflections on education, aging, family. I had never spoken publicly about Gerald, about the abuse, about the desperate escape. It was a chapter I kept for private conversations, for moments of guidance to women going through similar situations. Until today, at 73, I decided it was time. Time to share the complete story, without cuts, without softening. Not to provoke pity, nor to boast about overcoming, but to show that there is a way out even when it seems the world has collapsed, that there is life and abundant life after trauma. Lucas helped me prepare the script. Amy reviewed it, ensuring the medical information was correct. Anthony held my hand while I recorded the most difficult parts, pausing when emotion became too strong. This is my story. Raw, real, painful in parts, but also full of beauty, of love, of hope. The story of a country girl who faced personal hell and emerged not just a survivor, but triumphant. Not by her own merit, nobody wins alone, but through the support of so many good people God put in my path. People like my parents, who taught me unshakable values. Like Mrs. Wilson, who took me in when I ran away. Like Lenore, who saw beyond my scars. Like Anthony, who showed me that a real man builds, doesn't destroy. Like Lucas, a son destiny gave me through the most unlikely path, who taught me to love unconditionally. Like Amy, a gift I thought I would never receive, living proof that there is always a chance for new beginnings. And now, people like you who are watching this video. My dears, if you've made it this far, I have a special thank you. This story wasn't easy to tell, nor must it have been easy to hear. But I believe in the power of shared stories, in the healing that comes when we transform pain into purpose. So, I ask, if this story touched your heart, if it brought any reflection, please click like and subscribe to the channel. Each subscription is a virtual hug I receive with affection. Each comment is a conversation that continues beyond this video. If you're going through a difficult time, be it domestic violence, loss, illness, loneliness, know that there is life beyond pain. That tomorrow can be different. That you are stronger than you imagine. If you know someone in this situation, reach out. Sometimes, all a person needs is someone who believes in them when they can no longer believe in themselves. And always remember, your story doesn't end on your worst days. The last page hasn't been written yet. As long as there's life, there's the possibility of new chapters, of plot twists, of happy endings you don't even dare to dream of now. From a frightened girl from Pikeville to a YouTube grandma in Louisville, who could have predicted this path? Nobody. Not even myself. But here I am. And here you are. Thank you for listening, for being part of my story, for allowing me to be part of yours. With love from a grandma who has known the depths, but discovered that even there, flowers grow. Dorothy Wilson Parker, 73 years old, retired teacher, mother, grandmother, survivor, and, above all, witness that love always wins. A kiss to the heart of each one of you, and see you in the next video.